Hey Dragon Slayers! Today's video is about high blood pressure and its connection to insulin resistance, part 2. Another way that high insulin leads to high blood pressure is by thickening the blood vessel walls. Remember, insulin is an anabolic hormone, so that means it inherently signals cells to grow bigger, including the inner blood vessel cells. This is a healthy and natural response. However, when excess insulin is flowing through the body, the signal is stronger than normal. As vessel wall cells grow, the inner wall thickens, and the blood vessels begin to narrow. Imagine a garden hose thickening as water is flowing through it. As the hose wall presses in on the flowing water, the pressure inside the hose will climb. This is exactly what happens when the blood vessels take in too much insulin and it excessively stimulates the inner wall growth. Think again about that same garden hose with water running through it. If we make the hose larger and not longer, the water will flow more slowly with less pressure. Rather than shooting out, the water will be merely a trickle. Nitrous oxide is a powerful vasodilator, which means it increases the diameter of blood vessels. The inner wall cells produce nitrous oxide, which helps the muscle layer that surrounds the blood vessel to relax, thereby increasing the size of the blood vessel. Just like the hose, as the vessel diameter increases, the pressure inside plummets. If the body, in the body, this pressure lowering effect is so rapid and so potent that we have long used nitrous oxide in the form of oral nitroglycerin to prevent or reverse chest pain by rapidly dilating blood vessels in the heart to increase blood flow. In fact, nitrous oxide has been shown to be so important in cardiovascular health that scientists are exploring its function. The scientists exploring its function received the Nobel Prize. Insulin activates the production of nitrous oxide in inner wall cells. When insulin flows through a series of blood vessels, it signals those inner wall cells to produce nitrous oxide, which makes the blood vessels dilate, boosting blood flow to that area. This may be one of the ways that insulin directs the flow and use of nutrients by various tissues. For example, by increasing the blood flow to muscles, insulin helps those muscles receive more nutrients and oxygen. In contrast to the previous cardiovascular issues we've discussed, where aldosterone and the inner wall growth are overactive with insulin resistance because of the hyperinsulinemia, the problem with nitrous oxide and insulin resistance is that insulin is less able to stimulate nitrous oxide production in the inner walls. In this scenario, the inner wall cells have become less responsive to insulin's ability to increase nitrous oxide production. Thus, where insulin once increased blood vessel size and reduced blood pressure, it now has less effect, and the blood pressure stays elevated. Our sympathetic nervous system regulates the body's unconscious actions, including heart rate and heart contraction force, blood vessel size, sweat glands, and so much more. It is typically referred to as the fight or flight response because its events drive the body to action. It primes the pump for us to physically perform at our best. Part of this response is to increase blood pressure. We often think of higher blood pressure as a bad thing, but when you're fighting or fleeing for your survival, it's actually a very helpful response because it increases the delivery of blood with all of its nutrients and oxygen to various tissues throughout the body, especially our muscles. Interestingly, even in the absence of a perceived threat, insulin turns this process on, albeit subtly. However, when you have too much insulin because of resistance, this process is hyperactive. Our system is slightly activated in the fight or flight response to such a degree that we experience an increase in blood pressure that lasts as long as the insulin is elevated. So there you go, guys. The last two videos have explored the ways in which elevated insulin levels directly correlate to high blood pressure. I hope you learned a lot as much as I have. I love making these videos. I love teaching and sharing all of this knowledge with you guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. And remember, together, you and I will slay the dreaded diabetes dragon.